catch up with us.
Okay, we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. City of Ferguson City Council meeting, I'm calling to order. Let us stand for a silent prayer. Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, everybody. I'm in. I'm just
Thank
working
you.
off of my phone.
Okay, thank you, thank you,
Trying
thank
to
you.
figure it out.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Pittman, please.
Councilman Fry,
Here.
Councilwoman Griffin,
Here.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Here.
Councilwoman Smith,
Here.
Mayor Jones,
Here.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Here.
Councilman Garrett.
Here.
A quorum is present. At this time, I would like to entertain a motion and a second to amend the agenda, reordering unfinished business and appointment of boards and commission to a later date. Is there a motion?
Mayor,
Yes.
may I ask a question? Can you repeat that just real quickly for me, please?
I'm requesting a motion and a second to amend the agenda, reordering unfinished business and miscellaneous,
Okay, that's what I didn't catch.
and the appointment of council members to board and commission to a later date. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make the motion to agree with that.
Seconded.
Councilwoman Lipka made the motion and Councilwoman Fran seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed, the ayes have it. Now we are entering to our public comments. The citizens' comments were accepted via email prior to the meeting by Monday, August the 24th at 5:00 p.m. Clerk Pittman, would you please read any comments submitted?
Yes, the first one I have is from Tony Dupree with the Human Rights Commission. She said, one, the Human Rights Commission would like to promote our third annual Advocate of the Year Award for 2020. Now is the time for you, the resident, to nominate someone for this award. Information can be found in the August Ferguson Times on the front page and on the website. The deadline is September the 4th, 2020. Two, request Bill number 7175 be put back on the agenda. Bill number 7175, amended ordinance introduced by council members present, and ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code of Ordinances of the City of Ferguson pertaining to boards, commissions, and committees. Three, the Human Rights Commission would like for a Human Rights Commission box to be located next to the civilian review box in the police station. Can a Human Rights Commission box be mounted at City Hall? And lastly, Human Rights Commission has 2 vacancies, one Ward 1 and Ward 2. If you are interested, please apply through the City of Ferguson website under commissions. Next I have from Deborah Moore. And for the record, this one is a little bit lengthy, and I did have a conversation with the mayor. And I've done a run through of it, and it was about 8 or 9 minutes, and she suggested that we do keep with the 3 minutes. So I do have a timer here. And so at 3 minutes, I will stop. But all of the submission will be included in the minutes for everyone to review. So I would appreciate if you would read my comments. I'm sorry. Okay. I would appreciate if you would read my comments below during the public comment segment of the Tuesday, August 25th, 2020 Ferguson City Council meeting. Thank you. Council, key indicators from Tuesday, July 28th, 2020 Ferguson Council meeting: disrespect, dysfunctional, control, stereotype, unprofessional, friends, shameful, favoritism, disgraceful. Do the current council members understand that their behavior affect the civil progress, health, wealth, welfare, image of the entire city of Ferguson? The wealth, health, quality of life, and all Ferguson residents, all communities, businesses, stability. Retaining, attracting experienced staff. Does the current council understand the importance of the city of Ferguson, the importance the city of Ferguson is to all of North County and St. Louis County? Do those trying to stay, grab control, understand the financial impact of controlling Ferguson? Are our accounts payable operating on 15, 30, 60, 90, 120, 240-day payments? What's the city of Ferguson's bond credit rating? Can the council provide a debt summary report for residents' review? I ask again, how many different outstanding loans, bonds do we carry? Interest rate, maturity dates, how many pending lawsuits are in our hopper? And have we started planning how we will meet our obligation once given? Are we preparing for the worst or middle of the road? Residents should be made aware. I am not too fond of surprises of this magnitude. If Ferguson fails, it is not because of one person, it is the whole council. Focus on more serious city of Ferguson matters. Focus on trying to stabilize the whole city of Ferguson. Ferguson has been in a downward spiral for years. One citizen group, community business district did not cause this downward spiral. One citizen group, business district program, project, community cannot save Ferguson. We collectively must do together. FNIP and EDT, two citizen boards, were huge controversies. Why? Council members seem to take personal ownership of boards. Since both FNIP and EDT boards have financial dollars attached to them, it would be advisable to explain to residents the impact on their lives. If council members currently serving on these boards have detailed financials and measurable results for all residents to review, it would be appreciated if the council could explain whose duty, responsibility it is to assign council members to boards and commission. It would be appreciated. It is noted in Ferguson's charter. Is it noted in the Ferguson's charter? Are there written processes and procedures for this duty? Shot spotter. Nothing is free. Delve completely into the free agreement. Carefully review before submitting the designated area, people in Ferguson to this free, yeah, right technology. Stereotyping a segment of our community is wrong. Not one community, but all communities have this issue. We are one with the same problems. And I am at about 3 minutes now, and that is page 1.5, and I have 4 more pages to go. But the entire submission is going to be included in the minutes.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. Mayor Jones, is it possible, how many other public comments did we have?
I have 4 more.
Okay, well, never mind. In observation of time, I was going to say, if we didn't have that many.
We just need to keep to the 3-minute rule. It's imperative that we do that because we don't want to start something that we cannot keep up. So,
I just know according to the ordinance there, at some point, if it was allowed, we could extend it. But because I definitely understand if we have other public speakers, I don't want to take up any more time.
She's
I
gone.
want to hear what everybody's got to say.
So the next one is from Janetta Bodie. I'm a fairly new homeowner in Ferguson and would like to address a few issues. Why are landlords not being held to a higher standard? Driveways are not properly paved. Yards are not groomed, and trash and junk is allowed to pile up. Landlords need to be held accountable. Old cars, unsightly sheds, indoor furniture should be removed. It is unsightly and brings down property value. They are also breeding places for vermin. Is there any way we can incorporate some sort of trash cleanup in the city of Ferguson? I think doing so as a community service for those found littering is an excellent idea. Also incorporating this into local schools. I contacted St. Louis County regarding the HIP Home Improvement Program. I was informed that Ferguson does not participate in this program, but rather has been using the funds to pay for street repairs. Why are we paying taxes? Some of this, if not all, should be allotted for homeowners. More homeowners will help to stabilize Ferguson, thus bring businesses and tax revenue. Is some of this money currently available? I am aware that it is time to renew the HIP program. What is available for homeowners? Okay, the next one I have is from Alan Miller. Dear City Council members, hold on, I'm sorry, let me restart. Dear City Council members, although Robert's Rule of Order is the officially designated order for council proceedings, it is apparent in the June and July council meetings that a better understanding of Robert's Rule of Order is needed. I would like to help with some clarifications. All references below are to the 9th edition of Robert's Rules published in 1990. During a mid-June meeting, it was stated that council business is limited to ordinances, resolutions, and budgets. Endorsements of community activities, such as the Unity Fair, were rejected on this basis. Robert's rules, however, make it abundantly clear that the council business is not limited to resolutions, ordinances, and budgets. It allows actions on a whole wide variety of items. Even without referring to Robert's rules, Ferguson's long history of sponsoring and supporting a wide range of events makes clear the council's involvement in and advocacy of positive community activities. A short list of examples includes the 4th of July events, parades, the farmers market, fundraisers like the Taste of Ferguson, etc. The process for considering motions has also been incorrect. Once a motion is made, no other discussion is permitted while the chair, Mayor Jones, awaits a second. Once a motion is made and second, the chair restates the motion. Only then may debate start on the issue at hand. As stated on page 31, when the chair has stated the question, the motion is pending. It is then open to debate. All discussions, unless specifically introduced as a point of order, must wait until after the chair formally places the question in front of the council. Robert's Rules permits motions to be made on any council business. On page 27, the rules specifically cite, after the presentation of the report of an officer, a board, or a committee, one or more motions to carry out recommendations contained in the report may be introduced. A motion may also grow out of the presentation of a written communication to the assembly. This may be from an outside source. Therefore, during the July meeting, Councilman Fry's motion regarding Halpin Park was completely in order and appropriate. As indicated above, all interruptions from council members that prevented his motion from receiving a second were out of order, inappropriate, and disruptive. Next, Robert's rules provide for several classes of motions. Once a main motion is made, seconded, and stated by the chair, the main motion can be affected by a variety of motions. Action on any of the 5 types of subsequent motions must take precedence over the main motion. At the late June meeting, once the nomination of Mr. Garrett to council was moved, seconded, and stated, it was absolutely permissible for Councilwoman Griffin to make a secondary motion nominating Ms. Nelson. If Ms. Griffin's nomination was appropriately seconded, her motion would have taken precedence over the original motion. The council would have been obligated to discuss and vote on Ms. Nelson's confirmation before moving back to Mr. Garrett's nomination. Since Councilwoman Griffin's motion was not even permitted the opportunity to receive a second, the entire nomination process could be considered invalid. I hope this provides needed clarification that will help expedite conducting council business in the future and reduce the potential for legal challenges to the council's actions. Next, I have feedback.
Can you let Mayor Jones back into the meeting? Her iPad reloaded.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and I want to try to, at some point, I'll probably be logging on in my computer if it acts right as well.
Can you hear me, friend?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, because I'm having the same situation.
Mine's is cutting in and out.
Oh, wait.
Do we have any more comments?
I do have another comment, yes.
Okay. I think we're okay now.
I'm getting a lot of feedback from your location again. Okay.
No, I had to turn mine down because hers went out, so I had to turn mine back up, and now she's back up again. I had to turn mine down.
Okay.
provide. So,
Okay, are we ready to proceed?
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay, so Becky Miller says, "Dear City Council members, I was alarmed by a certain resolution that was put before the council at the end of the July meeting. Council meetings throughout the first several months of this year were severely strained. Some of the rancor was caused by statements suggesting that lawsuits could bankrupt the city of Ferguson, resulting in the dissolution. At the last council meeting, instead of learning from that issue, certain members of the city council went out of their way to risk getting the city involved in still another lawsuit. A resolution was submitted to provide public censure of Ferguson resident. Apparently, there was a property issue that the city has been ineffective in resolving by enforcement of the city codes or ordinances. It seems that those who proposed the resolution felt that a public shaming via an official censure would somehow resolve the issue. Instead, it merely displayed the council's impotence and frustration. More significantly, passing the resolution could have embroiled the city in a lengthy and expensive lawsuit. The resident was running for a non-Ferguson public office at the time. Thus, such public shaming might have influenced the outcome of the election. If the resolution had been passed and if the subject of the resolution had not been successful in their political campaign, the resident would have had plenty of justification to sue the city. They could have sued the city for slander, diminishment of reputation, and lost income. For many years, they possibly could have remained in public office. The city's insurance would not have covered the cost of such a suit, since the council's rash action was premeditated, voluntary, and easily avoidable. While I agree that the property issue is an ongoing problem, I believe that it should be resolved by finding other legal and more effective means. I would like to sincerely thank Councilwoman Griffin and in particular Councilman Fry for trying so hard to keep the resolution from the floor.
Thank you. Is that your last?
It is the last one. I'm sorry, it was 3, not 4. That is the last one.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to staff to reach out to the members of the city, the residents, to answer any questions or comments that came up tonight in the public comments. Thank you. At this time, Interim City Manager Bloom, may we have your report?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor Jones, I would be happy to do that. I'm going to ask a number of the staff to contribute. And we're going to start with Chief Hampton because he is on duty tonight. And just in case he's got a call, we'll start with him first. So Chief Hampton, would you please begin?
Yes, sir, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure being here once again. But first off, I'd like to thank the Ferguson Neighborhood Group and the Council for the First Responder Appreciation Day that we had on last Friday. I know the police chief will echo my sentiments, but we thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. Through St. Louis County Health Department and through the EOC, residents of Ferguson, we have 106 locations with confirmed COVID currently. Since March of 25th, we've had a total of 275 locations of confirmed COVID. Now, I may have multiple people at that location, so that doesn't give the exact number of how many people that we do have with COVID. We're right now on a trend of being plateaued, and hopefully we can keep it that way. Our next update should be later on this week from the County Health Department and the EOC. As far as Ferguson employees, we're doing a pretty good job. We're very minimally affected by the actual employees being out of work due to COVID. And I think that's from the steps that we've taken early on. And we were one of the first cities to mandate masks in the buildings and things like that. So we've done our fair share of keeping our employees safe. And as everybody knows, St. Louis County has a new mandate with wearing masks in the public places, indoors and outdoors, which is in effect currently. That's all I really have right now. Everything else is pretty much status quo as the symptoms and the signs of everything due to COVID. So I'd open up to any questions if anybody has any.
I have some questions. How you doing, Chief?
Good.
This is Fran. So as you know, we've had some fires over there in North Winds, and I was definitely wondering, what were the findings? Did you find out what it was that caused it? And then also, what I'm being told by people in the community is that since that particular location has went into foreclosure, that there have been an increase of fires, specifically in those buildings. And I know we've got probably roughly around 40 tenants in North Winds. The rest of those buildings have since been boarded up. But I just wanted to know what information could you help provide to help give me an understanding of exactly how many within the last year have you been noticing? Do the fires look the same? Do they, are they in the same areas? Like, what is it?
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. So recently we've had
Hey.
recently we've had an uptick in fires over in the North Winds area. Right now it's all under investigation, and I believe police chief may have a little bit more information on that. I'm not 100% sure where we are in the investigation with that. That seems to be all centered towards more of an arson. We do have our accidental injuries. We've had a couple of where people have fallen asleep while they're cooking. And this is in the middle of the night, say 1, 2, or 3 in the morning. And then we just had one on Camfield the other night. And that's our second one in the last year in the same area with the same cause. So some of it's accidental, some of it is arson, but each fire is investigated, and we work with the police, and I think St. Louis County Bomb and Arson was called in on numerous fires over there. And we've been working with the new management, and the new management is very receptive to any suggestions we have, and I think we are getting more buildings boarded up currently, which will be helping, and also getting the doors locked in the back. We had a lot of doors that were not secured, and they are taking the steps to secure those doors, which will help cut down on some of the issues that people are getting in the buildings.
I have a question. Are people squatting in the facilities that you know of?
The police chief would probably be able to answer that a little bit more than I could. We do run occasionally a person in the building for EMS calls, but some of it, we're going to be up to the winter months, and if it is a vacant building, we could definitely have people staying in those and lighting fires to keep warm, and that's something that we'll have to be concerned about. And I know the property management will be addressing some of those issues.
Okay, Chief Hampton, I to kind of focus in a little bit specifically on those ones that you said were arson. What else could you provide? Like, what type of material being used? Is that I know you have to do, your investigation for your sample, and of course, and then, of course, Chief Armstrong does his part. But specifically in regards to the arson, what is it that you're seeing? Please explain.
What we're seeing is we are seeing well-involved buildings when we pull up. And these are sometimes, most of them are vacant at the time we do come up on them. But some, the tenant has just moved out, and or the tenant is there, but they don't have much there because they are moving out, are in the process of moving out, or being relocated in the place. So it's hard to say, there's a pattern to anything, but all I know is there is an accelerant that is being used, and we're working with County Bomb and Arson, the Ferguson Fire Department, our police department, and the ATF.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that bit of information. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Are there any other questions for Chief Hampton? All right, thank you very much, John. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you stick around. If not, be safe on that call.
All right, sir.
I'd like to go next to Chief Armstrong. And Chief, if you could give your monthly report, I'd appreciate it.
Not a problem. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
First, I'll start with just trying to follow up with some of the information that Chief Hampton was providing. Councilman Fry, to answer your question about squatters in some of the units, the answer is yes. There are some squatters out there. We don't know how much. And so one of the things, there's a new management group that's in place over there that's overseeing the property, and they don't have the documentation for the rented units out there is not in order, and it doesn't paint a very clear picture for the new individuals that have come in. And so one of the things that they were working on was just trying to go through the paperwork and identify what units are actually rented and who is supposed to be in what units. And so they're still going through that process and having to walk the property and go in and check on the units to see who's supposed to be in what units. And so the property management, they don't have a clear picture of who is supposed to be in a lot of the units out there. So they're still working through that to see, just who's supposed to be out there and who is staying out there, who has not rented a unit out there. Councilwoman Griffin, in regards to some of the arsons out there that we've seen, one of the things that's been pretty consistent from what we've seen thus far is, some of the units that have been, where fires have been started, we did notice that there was, a lot of furniture left in the apartments. Now, I can't speak to, what contributed to that, but that has been something that was pretty consistent when the bomb and arson investigators got in there. It normally was a unit that had a significant amount of furniture still inside the apartment. Like Chief Hampton mentioned, because of the frequency of the arsons, that did get the attention of the ATF. And so, we have been working with them and continuing to work with them to try to investigate these and see if we can, find out who's doing them and bring that person to justice. One of the things, there's like I said, the new management group out there. I just had a meeting with some of the individuals from their team yesterday. And, they are talking about doing some more extensive cleanup of the property. One of the things we talk about is the lighting out there. The lighting in some parts of the property is very dark. And so it's easy, for people to hide under, the nighttime. And so they're working on the lighting, and they're also working on camera systems to be implemented on the property. And so, that would, give us, some tools and some resources to, if we do have an incident, not just an arson, but any criminal activity, that we could try to, go back and see, what information we can get from the camera. So, the new individuals that are out there seem to be dedicated to bringing the property up and putting some measures in place to try to counter some of the activity that we've been seeing out there. And we'll continue to work with them as we move along with that. So getting into some of the things that I wanted to talk about this evening. One of the things that I wanted to address for you all was our current staffing levels. I know that's a question that I get asked often. I know a lot of you all get asked often. And so right now, as we stand today, we have 37 sworn certified officers that we have here at the police department right now. And of those 37, 5 officers are new and in training. And so, so 5 individuals are not in a car riding out patrolling. They're having to ride in a car with another officer as they're getting trained, going through their training process. And so I want to kind of explain the impact that has. So that's 10 officers essentially that are, a large portion of their time is dedicated to each other and training and learning. And so, those officers that are not just, out riding around, just regular patrolling, a large part of what their assignment, what their task is right now is training up the new officers, so we can groom them to make sure that they're a quality officer and they're ready to go out and patrol on their own, once they meet all the requirements of the training program. And so, it's a tall task to have that many new officers on board that you're trying to train all at the same time. But that's just the position that we're in. And so, we're working our way through it. But we can't rush the process just to get cars out there. We have to make sure that these officers are properly trained and they're ready to be out there on their own to make the decisions that we need them to make. And additionally, we have 2 officers that are out because of they've just had babies. So, just new additions to their family. And so, those things, we still have to work within also, when officers have grown families. And we have one officer that's out on light duty who was injured chasing after somebody one evening and injured his knee and ended up having to have knee surgery. And so he's back working on light duty, but he's in the building, helping out. He's not on the streets. And so, with that number, we have a lot going on, and, the shortages that we have are magnified with everything and how busy we are. Just, stretched real thin right now, but still, trying to put measures in place to get the job done that we need to get done. From the recruiting side of things, we've had 2 recent interviews of individuals that are already certified officers, and so they would not need to go to the academy. So they're going into our background process currently. And we have 2 additional officers that are already certified officers that are scheduled for interviews coming up. And so, depending on how their interviews go, they may be also going into our background portal. And so that's where we stand as far as staffing goes. Ms. Pittman, could I share my screen? Yep, okay. Let me see if this is going to work. No. All right, hold on. That's not what I wanted to share. Okay. All right, can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
It's on
Yeah.
the Ferguson's website.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to highlight tonight, in a part of, in the spirit of the community policing, is one of the things that we're rolling out now, which is our interactive dashboard. And so anybody in the community can get access to this just by going to the Ferguson website and going to the police department's page on the website. And you come down here and there's a tab for view interactive dashboards. And so if you click on that, it takes you, we have 3 dashboards, 3 tabs up here at the top. And so, the first tab takes you to our policies and our reports. And so that really just tracks along where we're going with our consent decree policies and how we're coming along with that as far as policies that have been finalized or the stage that they're in. The next tab is roll call training schedule. And that just gives a schedule of what we have planned, upcoming trainings. Once again, heavily associated with our consent decree and the implementation of what we're rolling out with that. And the last tab is the one that I want to highlight. And this is our dashboard dealing with our calls for service and our crime information. And like I said, this is accessible through the city's website. So, all residents have access to this, and everything that I'm clicking on is the same thing that any resident or citizen could click on if they wanted to come here to look at the information. And so just wanted to kind of briefly run through, what the dashboards look like. And so this one is calls for service. And so this has to deal with all of the calls that come into our dispatch center, our 911 center, and also all of the calls or events that are initiated, by the officers themselves. And so, you can come up here and they have different tabs that you can click on, click different areas of the city, different categories that go into our computer system is how we track information and the information that we report on. And you can come and you can look over here. And so what I'm looking at on my screen right now goes back to 2012, just showing you what the numbers look like from back then coming up to current to 2020. And so if individuals, they can get on here and they could click on some of the tabs, if you just wanted to go and look and see what all of 2020 looks like, you could click on the 2020 tab and it would just bring you to this year. And so, it has different tabs and different things that you could click on to play around with it, if it was anything in particular, that somebody was interested in trying to find out. And then over here, we have a 30-day map. And so this dashboard we try to update it at least once a week and refresh the information, once a week. And so it tells you right here, it was last updated on August 20th. And so we have a map right here. And so this map, the automatic default for this map is it shows you the last 30 days. And this map is tied to the categories over here. And that's what, shows on this map. And so you can click on this and you can blow the map up. And so, residents can get in here and they can, move it around and go to their, their streets or their neighborhoods to kind of look and see, what kind of activity. And so the darker the shaded area is, it's the more activity that we've seen in that area over the last 30 days. And so, residents can come in and look at this and just kind of look and see, parts of the city, where we're seeing, some activity more than others, so to speak. Another unique thing about this map is this tab down here where it says calls for service during the week. And so what this is it breaks down Monday through Friday, 24 hours a day. And so, the 0 is midnight. So midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, and so on. And once you get in here, it's in military time. And so the 23 is 11 o'clock at night. And so the darker the shaded area is the higher volume of calls for service for that given day. So 1 is Sunday down to 7, which is Saturday. And so, and just looking at this, you can see like our busiest times, it starts around 7 o'clock in the morning on most days, especially Monday through Friday. Sunday and Saturday, it starts a little bit later. We get into 8 or 9. But as we can see, roughly around 7 o'clock in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock most days at night, it's that just shows the volume of how busy, we are with the calls that we're getting, the activity that we're seeing throughout the day. And as we can see, once it starts getting late into the early morning hours, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning is when, we typically see, a big slowdown. And so, that kind of, shows a little bit for the community to just kind of see, what time periods, where the most active and busy, with calls for service and things that the officers are working on. The next one I wanted to come to is we have a crime dashboard. And so this information is showing or tracking it's called Part 1 crimes, or generally is listed as your more serious crimes. And so these categories are robbery, larceny, which is just all thefts, burglaries, motor vehicle thefts, assaults, homicides, and rape are the categories that are tracked with the uniform crime reports. And so this is, with most agencies in the country, the crime statistics that they report to the FBI every year are these same categories. And so one of the things that we can see when you come over here and you look at the percentages, it shows that we're down in robbery. So compared to this exact time period last year, we've had a decrease in robberies, but we've seen an increase in all the other categories: larcenies, burglaries, motor vehicle thefts, assaults, and homicide. We've seen an increase this year compared to what we saw last year. And so overall, if you look down here at the bottom, it shows to date, we've had a 11% increase in these serious crimes. And, that the reason I highlight that is because, these are the things that take up a significant amount of our time. So, responding to these calls and incidents, we're going to be on these calls a lot longer than we would, just a less serious crime, because more is involved in this. We have to talk to more people. We have to canvass, the neighbors, the neighborhoods and such. And so, we have an overall increase in all of these. And so with our shortages, that's just taking, more time that the officers have to spend on these calls, which takes away from some of the other things, that we, would like to be doing. But we have to make sure that we're giving these high priority calls and incidents the priority that they deserve. And so lastly, I want to highlight this tab right here is the list of the calls for service that we get. And so just briefly want to run through this. And so this is the categories of what's in our computer system of what we see or what we enter in. And so these are all the calls that we go to. And so if something happened, in a certain area of town and a resident was curious to kind of learn what happened, or they saw police cars over in a certain area at a certain time, a day and time, they could come back to this dashboard and look and see, and would be able to find the category or type of incident that we were out on at that day and time. Now, one of the things that we don't include on this list is people's address. We're not going to put addresses on here because, we want to protect people's privacy and make sure we have that balance. So one of the things that we're working on adding to the screen right here is a map, because as you can see, these calls are broken down into sectors, and the city is broken up into 4 sectors as to what we patrol. And so we're working on getting a sector map added to the screen. And so when residents see what sector the call was in, they would know if it was in their general neighborhood or not. And that's how they would be able to find that information, or, just really go looking for it. Another thing that we're working on with this is, by having this dashboard and some of the input and conversations that it generates, we're looking at adding some more categories or some more codes where it's easier for the community to look and see, what we have going on. And so a good example of that would be with the emails that I get and that some of you all get of some residents say that they never see a police car drive down their street. And so historically, how we would address
Restaurant. Oh, and what's the name of it?
Historically, how we've addressed that is we would send out a notice, to the patrol officers, or we would make an entry into our desk book where they go to look for that information. And we would just say, hey, citizens are requesting patrols on this street or in this particular neighborhood. And so we would put that information out there, but there was nothing on the back end for us to be able to show people or to confirm that an officer did, drive down there or did, ride through that neighborhood. And, and it's one of the things where, if the resident doesn't see the officer, and the officer does drive by there, that resident is still left with the same feeling that they never see an officer. And so, we're just trying to find a way to attach those two things where even if the resident didn't see a patrol car drive by, but if we did have an officer drive by, what measure could we put in place for residents to be able to go in and see that? And so we're looking at adding another category in here to where officers can log that, where it's in the system, where residents can come back to this dashboard and look and see if their sectors, their areas have seen that category. And so that would be we'll call that like a citizen directed patrol or community directed patrol, something like that, where it would stand out and we can let the residents know what category we're using for those those calls for extra patrols that we get from the community, so they have an avenue where they can come and they can look and see, what we're doing. Ideally, we would do that with GPS monitoring. And a lot of police departments have GPS tracking on the patrol cars where, we could go back in and we can look and see, if an officer has driven through that neighborhood or down that street, but we don't have that. It was supposed to be included in the package that we were getting this year, but that was one of the things that got cut when we had to make a lot of our cuts during the budget time for the pandemic. So we don't have the GPS tracking in our units to be able to go and confirm it that way. So this was, the best way that we could, come up with to try to show the residents, what we are doing, and that, we are taking that information that they're giving us and we are, trying to go out there and show more of a presence in the areas where we're getting those complaints from. So that's the dashboard. I want to encourage, everybody to get on here and just kind of play around with it because, we're still new and rolling this out. And so we definitely want to get community input, community feedback on some things that maybe we could, adjust or tailor to make it either a little bit more user friendly, or if we need to explain some things or some terminology. So we just, definitely want to push that, encourage the public to start using that and looking at it, so we can get some feedback on it and make sure that it's accomplishing, what we wanted to accomplish by providing that information to the public. All right, so with that, I'll stop sharing. And so just the last couple of things that I wanted to highlight. We received approval for a training initiative. And so the COPS office through the Department of Justice, they partnered with the International Association of Chiefs of Police for a program called, the acronym for it is CRITAC. And what that stands for is the Collaborative Reform Initiative Technical Assistance Center. And so what it is, an agency submits a request to receive technical assistance, training, people, consultants, on scene coming to visit you, working through a bevy of topics that they've outlined for this initiative. And so initially, when we saw it as a good opportunity because this technical assistance and the training that comes with it is free of charge. And so we don't have to pay for any of this. And this is a collaboration with all the law enforcement entities in the country. And so it's really geared towards just the best practices in law enforcement and the things that we want to work towards as a profession. And so we submitted an inquiry to receive this assistance, and it was approved by the COPS office. And so the area that we will be initially getting this assistance in is around community engagement. Because where we were at with the consent decree, and we were at the stage in the consent decree of community outreach, community engagements, we thought that would be a good topic to tackle at one time. When I submit my request in for them, I requested assistance in about 8 or 9 different categories. And so they let me know quickly that you can only do one at a time. And so this was the one that we chose to start with. So we have some kickoff meetings coming up with them in the next few weeks. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight, we had a meeting recently with Behavioral Health Response. And so they're an entity that provides, assistance through counseling with behavioral health specialists. And so, a lot of the mental illness and just, behavioral issues in the community. And so we're talking with them about a pilot program that they, in the initial meeting that we had with them, that they were on board with trying. We just would have to work out all the logistics of what it would look like. But in this, largely their role up to this point has been, if, we encounter somebody who, we feel is in need of their services, we would deal with them on the front end on a call for service, and then we would send them the contact information and make a referral for them to come out afterwards to try to provide services for this individual. And one of the things in the meeting that we had with them, and as far as the reform efforts, throughout the country, that some agencies are trying to move towards is what they call a co-response. And this entity is open to maybe once or twice a week, having one of their specialists come and actually do ride-alongs with our officers, where if we get one of these calls, and if it meets the criteria that we set in place, on the front end of what this program would look like, we have the behavioral health specialist in the vehicle with us, and they can go ahead and give those services on the front end, where the officer is just there, but not actually engaging with the individual if it's one of the calls that meets that criteria, to try to give more of the services on the front end and reduce some of the interactions with law enforcement being a part of that. And so, like I said, we just had an initial meeting talking about that last week. And so we're going to continue to work on that to see, if we can work out the logistics on that to make that happen, where I think that would be extremely beneficial and impactful for what the services and the partnerships that we're trying to build here. And once again, this is a service that would be free of charge for us. We would not have to pay for this also. So just trying to build up our partnerships to make sure that we're still going out to provide the services that we need to provide. So that was all I had. I know that was a mouthful. I'm sorry.
Chief, I have some questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
First question, the website is awesome. I've actually been using it for a couple months now regarding the consent decree and information there. But we've had some citizens ask, is there a mobile friendly version of that yet? Because they're having a hard time doing it on their phone.
That I'm not aware of. So my understanding of our city's website as a whole is the interface of it is supposed to be mobile friendly. And so this is just built into that. But I don't know. I would have to look and see if there's any difference of it, but it might not be.
If you don't mind checking into that, I would love to get that information so I can refer back to the citizens who've asked me.
Okay.
Councilwoman,
Yes.
just a quick update. The version that and Matt can chime in if he's here, if I'm not mistaken, the version that we're going to be converting to will be far more mobile friendly. The version that we have today is not. So that's under development as we speak.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Chief Armstrong, the other question I had is the technical assistance program that you were referring to, that you were telling us about. How long will that last? What's the time frame of that, and how much training is that? I mean, how many hours is it trained as a capsule, or is it individually training with the officers? What are those answers?
There is no set time frame of it, because with this program, each agency that they work with and partner with is built from the ground up and is tailored to that organization and to that agency. So it's not a cookie cutter model where we can say it's this or it's that. And so it starts with meetings and conversations about what the community needs or what the department needs are, and what the vision is of what we're trying to get to, and then we build it from there. And so I don't have an answer to that question because we haven't done this before, and this program is relatively new. And so, but that is some of the questions that I'll have once we start meeting, with the trainers and the subject matter experts that we'll be working with on this venture, as to what are their thoughts going into it. But the basis of this program is to build something for the ground up that's needed and tailored to the agency that they're working with.
Awesome. The final question I have for you is kind of ties into the website as well. So I've shared with you some of the conversations I've had with citizens regarding their concern about seeing officers and so forth in the communities or in their neighborhoods. And you're telling us that we currently have 37 officers. We have 5 officers that are brand new and in training, which means we have 5 officers training them. So yes. Are you telling us that there is 32 officers on the street and 5 of them are bonus officers because they've got a trainer trainee with them? Is that the way it would be healthy to look at it that way? Or are we looking at 27 officers on the street because the other 10 are working on the process of training?
No, and so the 37 number includes everybody. So I'm included in that number. The assistant
So
that is from the top down to the bottom of every certified officer that we have here is the 37 number. And so the 5 officers that are in training, they're all out on the road riding with training officers. So they're out in the field training. It's just, in that vehicle, it's not a regular patrol vehicle. A regular patrol vehicle, an officer that's out riding and patrolling by themselves are only focused on community issues or the task at hand of what they're dealing with or the call for service that they get. These cars with the trainees in them, on top of having to do that part, their biggest contribution or objective is training this new officer and working with them and coaching them up to get them to the level where they can be an officer out riding by themselves. And so, it's now the benefits of it is, if that car gets dispatched to a call, then there's already 2 officers at that call. And so it helps in that regard, where some of the calls where we would always have to send 2 cars to it because it requires a 2-person response. But also at the same time, if the officer just started, we're still going to send a second car because, that officer may not know what to do. And so, we're not just going to rely on that. And so it ties up a lot of resources depending on what we're going to. But the primary objective of that car out there is going to be the calls for service, 1, and then the training component is going to be 2nd.
And I know you've been kind of amping up your social media presence with your Facebook page and so forth. So maybe if you haven't already done it, it would be kind of cool to see a tutorial out there on how people can use that website. Maybe get it on the Facebook page or something.
I'll try to work it in, but ma'am, I have to manage our Facebook page because I don't have anybody else I can task with that. And so
don't you have a kid at home?
How soon I can get that done, but I'll try to.
No rush. No rush. I was just saying, I know you're good at it, and that's kind of cool. All right. Thank you, sir.
No problem, ma'am.
Any other questions for Chief Armstrong?
Real quick, hey, Chief, it looks great. That's all. Marvelous.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Next, I'll ask Nicole Barton to give us a few comments about our continuing consent decree activities.
Good evening, Mayor Jones, members of the City
Good
Council,
evening.
and members of the community who have joined us this evening.
Good evening.
I'm Nicole Barton. I'm the Consent Decree Coordinator for the City of Ferguson. And we have just recently completed our Year 4 work plan as of July the 31st. So I wanted to give everyone an update of where we are with the consent decree and what we've accomplished during Year 4. So even with the pandemic, we still have met the majority of all of our Year 4 work plan deadlines and goals. We only had to push back 2 of those work plan items, and they were both due to COVID. One of the items that we had to push back was our series of small group dialogues between police officers and community groups. That was slated to begin in person in April, and due to COVID, of course, we had to push that back. So in discussions, we have decided to start with a pilot Zoom call to begin that series. Once approved, we're hoping to get that going in mid-September. The second item that we had to push back was we had a team summit that everyone worked really hard to put together, and unfortunately that was canceled due to COVID as well. One of the items for the team summit, we were going to have a round table discussion with our youth to get the youth input on our bias-free policing policies. So with that being pushed back, we had to kind of revisit, how can we still get the youth input during the time that we're meeting virtually. So I've been working with the Ferguson Florissant School District. I have been working with the DOJ and monitoring team to develop questions for the youth. And the school district is willing, several of the schools are willing to send out the questions to their students. They're just getting ready to go back to school and they're going to be via Zoom too. So we're trying to figure out how to get this worked in early on. We were hoping to get input back from the youth mid-September as well. So even though we had to push both items back, we're working on still being able to implement both of these items very soon. So now I'm going to go through and just give an update of all of the things that we were able to accomplish during the year 4 work plan. And so I wanted to let everyone know, so when I'm mentioning that a plan or a policy has been submitted, that means it still has to be vetted by the Department of Justice and the monitoring team. So I just want to say that when I say that a plan or a policy has been finalized, that means that it has been vetted with the DOJ, the monitor team, and we have had community input in on that as well. So I get a lot of questions about that sometimes, so I just wanted to let everyone know. So if they're submitted, that means they're still in draft, we're still working on them, and the community, they will be provided as we go along. So we just recently submitted, all of these deadline dates were made by July 31st. We submitted the crime prevention plan. We also submitted our first draft of the community policing and engagement plan. I've had the pleasure of being able to work with the MPSC Community Engagement Committee and the CRB Community Engagement Committee during the past 6 months. And they have provided such great input and feedback. It's been great to see this plan developing over this time. So that first draft was submitted because we had a hard deadline date of July the 31st. But we still, I've discussed with the DOJ and monitoring team that these groups, the engagement committees, would like to submit the plans to their general committees so that we can get the feedback and input from the general committees as well. So, so again, this is a draft plan that was submitted, and once we get feedback from the groups on that, we will resubmit that again as well. We've submitted the staffing plan, the salary study for the recruitment plan. We've submitted the plan for the reassessment and revision of the municipal code, which will be presented in full detail to the City Council at a future date. We have submitted the LEP policies on both the police department and courts. First Amendment policy has been placed, it was placed on our website for public comment. We recently received those public comments back, and we are working with the Department of Justice to incorporate those public comments. So hopefully the First Amendment policies will be finalized in the very upcoming future. Our body-worn camera and in-car camera policies were just finalized this week. So we will be working on the roll call trainings to submit for approval for the body-worn camera and in-car camera policies as well. We've been working with Benchmark, which is the software program, the software company that we're working with to develop some of our tools that we're going to be using, one of which is our use of force forms. We worked with them for a couple of months. We recently rolled in the Department of Justice and the monitoring team so that we could get their final approval before we go live with our use of force forms, and that is going exceptionally well. We had the roll call trainings that we've recently completed in July. Investigatory stops and detentions roll call training was complete. Professional standards and internal investigations, disciplinary guidelines. Roll call training began the beginning of August, and it will run through the next 2 weeks. citation and warrantless arrest. We are working on finalizing those policies so that we can work on the roll call trainings for those will be coming up soon as well. Warrantless searches and seizure roll call trainings have been completed, and we have recently submitted the crisis intervention curriculum and manual to the DOJ for approval as well. We are proud to say that we had our first successful police citizen mediation in July. And we are currently working with the Department of Justice to develop our year 5 work plan. And finally, wanted to just make sure that everyone is aware that our next status hearing will be September the 22nd at 11:00 a.m.
Is that it?
That is all I have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nicole. Not to, this is not to diminish anybody else's efforts, but recall that in July of last year at the status hearing, we took a pretty good thumping for not getting a whole lot done the year before, to a large degree deservedly so, just because of the situations that we were in. So Nicole has done a lot of, gotten us a long way towards getting to the finish line. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I just have a couple of things and we'll be done with this report. As Chief Armstrong alluded, and I just wanted to update council and the attendees. Yesterday morning, Matt and I met with the prospective new owners of Northwinds. And I say prospective because they have bought the debt of Northwinds from the bank that was holding that debt. So they have bought out the bank, and now they are in the process of dissolving the company. And after that happens, then they will own the company itself. So right now, they're the bank, not the owner. This is a company that has a good track record of coming in and rescuing distressed properties, especially lower income distressed properties, and turning them around. They've shared with us, and I'm happy to share with council in a different setting, some of their plans with respect to security in particular. And they have what seems to be a very good approach to bringing this property around. It's a unique property because of just how it's laid out, but they are prepared to make a substantial investment in this community. So we will continue to monitor this. I know we've been talking about Northwind since January. And first we had somebody who was going to a various owner or a sub-owner group that was going to come in and take over, and that didn't work. And then we had a different ownership group that was going to come in and take over, and that didn't work. And then we had an agent group that was going to come in and help fix things, and that didn't work. So right now I'm confident, I'm guardedly optimistic that that this group is going to work because of the approach that they're taking. The only other thing I want to bring to your attention is I just want to kind of give you a heads up, and that is with respect to our ordinances regarding plan reviews. And I've asked Director Liebson to address this issue with the Plan Commission, and he has, and I've asked him to go back and ask him to put a little bit more definition around this. Unfortunately, our current ordinance with respect to plan review indicates that if you increase the footprint of a building more than 5,000, it requires a review by Plan Commission. But if you go vertical and increase it by 5,000 square feet, you don't require a plan review. So right now what we're in the midst of is trying to make that definition fit a wider array of circumstances. So I hope to bring that to you at the next meeting. It's gone through Plan Commission last week, and it'll go through again next week. And that's all I have.
Mr. Bloom,
Yes, ma'am.
just for clarification, because I kind of heard with only 1 year at the very beginning, the prospective new owners of Northwinds are the people who bought the bank that had the note of Northwinds?
No, ma'am, they didn't buy the bank. They bought the debt instrument from the bank.
Okay. I was going to say, if
Jeffrey, Mr. Bloom, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, first of all, you know me. Do you think I'm going to be okay with these new owners? You tell me, because you've gotten a feel for how I am. You know what my concerns are. You know I don't want them flatlining in the area or just pushing people out. So if there's something involved with that, I mean, I'm not saying that's their intentions. I'm just saying, you know me and what my concerns are. So I'm just wondering, do you think, just on the surface of it, is this something that that is going to be good for the residents? My concern is always the people that live in the community. I don't want any of my people getting kicked out, but I do understand the conditions. So is that something that has been talked about? Did they talk about their interests of what they want to do with the building, etc.?
Well, obviously, I think it's too early to tell, ma'am, but on the surface and based upon one conversation, I think that you're going to be pleasantly surprised. My sense from just that first conversation is that they come in and take a distressed property that is rented at something below, 25 or 30%. So it has a lot of upward potential from a profit perspective, but also very much in terms of improving safety of the residents. And that was a substantial part of our conversation, was their approach, not just to the safety of the residents, but also of restoring the community or those buildings themselves to a habitable state. And if you know anything about those buildings over there right now, and I'm sure you do, a great many of them are not habitable. And we've already heard from Chief Hampton and from Chief Armstrong that there's a strong possibility that somebody is over there setting fires because they can. So that's why I said I'm guardedly optimistic, ma'am, is my sense from talking to these people is they know what they're doing, and they are in the business of improving properties, not further running them down as the previous owner was.
Okay, well, I'm definitely interested in having a more detailed discussion so I can know more about them. I definitely think, especially given, what has happened, the pushback back and forth with the previous owners to make the necessary changes for them, it just didn't, it for whatever reason, it did not happen. And so I'm looking forward to them actually making those improvements. My concern is always the people in the community. I could just imagine if school was in, how many of those children that attended Coke no longer live in those apartment complexes. If you just simply drove around, it looks like a ghost town at this point. And I can only go off of my opinion, but I feel like that was done by design. At the same time, you still have tenants who were living in that area that still have to pay rent back for locations that were not really the ideal conditions to be living in the first place, but it was affordable. And then they made it not affordable, and they taxed you. So those are type of things that I think maybe as a council we can look at and we can kind of figure out together, how do we address this? Because regardless if North Winds is not there, you still got Canfield, you still have Oakmont, you still have Arbor Village, you still have other apartment complexes in other places. And we can look at this as legislators and try to figure out, how do we prevent something like that from happening as well? And so I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that to council. That's something that we can all work on, because at the end of the day, I know nobody wants our tenants and the people that come into our community because they want to live here being pushed out because of the conditions. So thank you for that report. I look forward to learning more about them because my interest is there.
Yes, ma'am. I totally understand your feelings. Madam Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, special presentation. We don't have any. Public hearing, none. The consent agenda, the minutes for council meeting minutes, June 16, 2020. Council meeting minutes, July 28, 2020. I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Byron moved and Councilwoman Heather second. Are you ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. The next item on the agenda is request for liquor license. Interim City Manager Bloom, would you share with us about the liquor license?
Well, I'm actually going to defer that to Octavia, as that's really primary her responsibility.
Okay, Octavia?
Okay, Mayor and Council, I have received an application from Ophira Palace, Managing Officer of David Brandon. And this new restaurant is going to be at 103 to 111 North Harvey. And that's the old location of the Celebrity Restaurant.
Okay.
So they've met the requirements on our end. The only thing that I have pending at this point is the exterior inspection, but that's something that Public Works is working on. But in terms of the other requirements, they have all been met. And we actually do have the managing officer on the call if you all had any questions.
The only question I have is, what is your main type of food?
What?
No.
Can you hear me? The main type of food is West African food. We have American food as well.
I thought he was a police officer. What's that guy?
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the liquor license.
So moved.
Byron moved.
Seconded.
Councilwoman Fran second. Are you ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We don't have a proclamation for tonight, so we'll move to our resolutions. Without objection, we introduced by council members present. Hearing no objections, Attorney Carey to read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2020-32, resolution supporting community reparations for Black Ferguson.
Councilwoman Griffith, you asked for this resolution.
Yes, ma'am, I did. I don't know if it read like that, but I think we definitely, it's time now. You know, we are in the process of creating a comprehensive plan which talks about the development within the city of Ferguson for the next 20 years, using a racial equity lens. I know people generally shy away from the word reparations, but I actually look at reparations and equity in a very similar way. I think that when you talk about reparations, people think, some type of monetary incentive to help people in the community, specifically Black people who have been impacted by systematic racism. And that doesn't necessarily, I think it depends on, what community you're in. I think it depends on, what has been historically done within that particular area. And so I looked at this as a way that also, this is a resolution that ties in with the comprehensive plan, which focuses on development within the city of Ferguson for the next 20 years. It also addresses some very important things. And I think, that we have to acknowledge happen here in the city of Ferguson, which basically prevented African Americans from being able to create generational wealth here in the city of Ferguson. When we talk about redlining, when we talk about, the fact that you had a neighboring municipality who was predominantly Black, one of the most historic places, and them not being able to move here initially, and then it was just, to me, it was just amazing, the type of history when you really find out what has happened here in Ferguson. For me, it was a shocker. Like, I don't know how many of you all know, but I grew up in the city. I grew up around in a predominantly Black community. So everybody that worked there, the businesses, all of that was the same for me. And for us, we never really came out to the county, and not until I was a young adult. And as I started meeting people who were from Kentlock, who were from Ferguson, and they're telling, long-term residents are not the same here in Ferguson as they are in the city. And that was because there were laws in place that actually prevented Black people from being able to move into this area. And I don't know if you have neighborhood associations or certain private entities that still have that wordage here. But I think it's our responsibility, at this point in time, just given everything that's going on, and given that we talk all the time about wanting to make a difference, wanting to do things that actually take care of people. We talk about equity all the time. What is equity here in the city of Ferguson? What does that look like? And so as a legislator, I think that we can put things in place that actually help us dig deeper into what that looks like for our community, what the impacts of that have been, and how we can make it better. When we talk about all coming together, how we can make that actually happen. And so this resolution is what it was designed for. It was a way to create some stability in the community. I mean, like we just got through talking about right now, we've got apartment complexes, and I'll be honest with you, majority of them are made, you have African-American residents that live in apartment complexes. There's a way that we can look at this, that we can create the real equity in our community that will give our city as a whole more stabilization, that can benefit us so we can grow as a community all together. And I think it's time. So that's what this resolution is about. I made sure I submitted it off to each and everybody. I wanted you all to have time to really just digest it, look at it. If you had any questions, we can talk about it, and then figure out a way, to where we can fine tune it so that it actually has, it serves a purpose and serves a great purpose in our community to try to right some of the wrongs that have historically been done to Black people. It's not a shot at anybody personally. This is about us being in a position where we can do that. We can make that decision. And so I am definitely looking for each and every one of you support in supporting this resolution. And if not, I definitely want to understand what it is so that we can figure out how we move together collectively. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
I have a question. Attorney Carey, how does this resolution affect the consent decree? Does it have any bearings on our consent decree?
It does not directly have bearing on the consent decree. One of the things I think, you guys might want to just talk about is the fact that obviously in the consent decree we, there's some language in the consent decree that talks about, Ferguson not necessarily, admitting to the specific allegations that were alleged against the city by the Department of Justice.
Can I interrupt for just 1 second, Apollo?
If I could,
Could you allow him to finish, please?
I can't, I'm having problems with my iPad, and I'm kind of not, I sent a note to Octavia twice. I'm not being able to catch every word or whatever, but I do know that Mueller had, in his comment, had said something about he wanted to brief us on Robert Rules of Order. And if I heard him correctly, it said something about, unless there was a second, there should not be a discussion or something like that. Attorney Fuller, did you hear that? When Mueller's comment was read, because if that's the case, and I'm real sorry about my devices here tonight. If that's the case, we're going against something that he brought to us. But then at the same time, I want to say that we have a resolution, and I think it came off, and I'm sorry about, again, this device is driving me crazy. We have a resolution that is being brought to as the council, if I heard that correct, and the council has not approved that. So it's really something that's coming from an individual. And I'm so sorry, Paula, for interrupting you, but I am just having a hard time with understanding. I didn't hear nothing about what Nicole said, so I'm sorry about.
I actually appreciate you, sir, saying that, Ms. Burrows, because I do notice here on the resolution, it states that it was introduced by council as a whole. And so I know this wasn't introduced by everyone. And so I definitely want to make sure that that's changed. And if anybody would like to have their name added on it, whatever reason, you're more than welcome to. But I definitely appreciate that. I was interested in hearing, exactly what Apollo was saying in regards to the consent decree.
I think it's out of order though, friend, because if we're going by the rules, because as a matter of fact, it was last time we was in council that you asked me who wrote that and who did that. And so that's why I'm keen on it, because I appreciate you bringing that up. So we don't want to keep going down the rabbit hole. And if that's the case, then what's going on right now shouldn't be going on. Am I right, Apollo?
Not understanding.
Well, I mean, if someone's asked for legal, I mean, I think the mayor's asked a question about, legal advice. I don't necessarily know that you guys have opened the floor for discussion on the actual resolution. The way I took it was that the mayor just asked for, legal advice as to whether or not this affects the consent decree.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then, Fran didn't ask for anybody for a resolution or a vote or anything. You're gonna have to be
no.
Okay, I'm just looking for somebody to be my ears because I'm not being able to detect everything.
Apollo, would you finish, please?
Okay, yeah, sure. So just to reiterate, just in case Councilwoman Burrow or other folks didn't hear me, the direct answer to the question is no, I don't think it necessarily affects your consent decree. You just want to be careful in the language of your resolution not to necessarily contradict anything that you have, sworn to or said in the language of the consent decree. In particular, the language of the consent decree talks about the city not admitting to certain allegations, but being willing to implement the necessary police reform to try to right the ship in terms of, some of the things that have happened in the city in the past. And so as you look at the resolution, and you look at the language in the resolution, I think it's incumbent upon the council to, understand that language and sort of know what, how it reads up against the language of the consent decree, in particular that language that talks about, what you didn't admit to with regard to the specific allegations of the Department of Justice.
I appreciate that, Apollo. Thank you for getting that out. I actually have a question specifically about because the consent decree itself is an agreement between the City of Ferguson and the Department of Justice, and it lists several things that the city needed to do. Those were the conditions upon the agreement of that contract. That has absolutely nothing to do with this resolution. This resolution is not in regards to the consent decree at all. This is in regards to us simply looking at the history and looking at the fact that, this is what was happening. This is, regardless, they're working on a consent decree. It is what it is. The purpose of it, we wouldn't have agreed to it if we wouldn't have, I'm not saying verbally do this, but at the same time, if it was something that happened, let's just be honest about that. That's exactly what
It
happened.
happened, but this
It
right
happened.
here.
One person speak at a time.
Right. Yeah, I would like to finish. So apologizes. I think what you're talking specifically is number 1, where it says apologizes and makes amends for targeting of Blacks by way of implementing the pattern and practice of targeting Black residents of Ferguson and surrounding areas in an effort to generate revenue. If you all do not feel like at this point in time, you're willing to recognize that that's what we as a city, regardless if it was an intentional or not, if you're not yet at a point where you want to do that, this is when we go back to the conversation that people, you want to work together, but you don't want to admit. I mean, it's like AAA, the first thing to do is acknowledge what's being done so that we can move forward. It's not, it's like almost if you admit that that's what happened, that was the impact, regardless of whether it was the intent, that was the impact of it. If you're not yet at a place where you want to do that, then that's, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Mayor Jones, can I?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Fran, I understand the intent behind the resolution. When I looked into it, I realized that this was almost verbatim the same resolution that Asheville, North Carolina passed.
I thought that was wonderful. Yeah.
And for different reasons, and there are a lot of things within this resolution that have nothing to do with what the city does or what the city's responsible for. So I understand the intent behind it, but as the resolution stands here,
such as what? Could you explain like where exactly you feel like
Fran, Councilwoman Fran, would you give Councilwoman Heather an opportunity to finish speaking? She listened to you. Now it's time for you to listen to her. That's only right. Councilwoman Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Jones. There are several items that don't pertain to the city business, such as education. The city of Ferguson is not responsible for education. That's the state. The line about toxic waste. I mean, I understand that this has taken a lot of things and a lot of wrongdoings around the nation and put it into one package, but it doesn't apply specifically to Ferguson. So that's my issue with this.
Okay. Well, the toxic environment, we can actually pull up documentation that shows what's happening with the streams that run under. I mean, we can have a conversation about that if you want to. But if it's something, what my intention is, and I agree, I appreciate that you understand what my intent is to actually do something that will help. And so, you know, if there's something that you specifically want to address, then let's have a conversation about it and we can figure out the wordage that needs to be in there so that it does. This is a working document, you all. This is not something where I'm just like, okay, no, you know, I want to work with everybody, but I want its purpose to be in place. I want its purpose, the goal, the intent to remain the same. Let's make it what it's supposed to be. Let's work together in some kind of way, shape, or form. This is what I want to do. And I'm hoping that you all have gotten to a place where you're ready to do that.
Can I ask a question? This is Tony.
Yes, Tony, and then Byron.
Is there a motion on the floor?
No, I'm getting ready to put one. There's not one. I was letting the discussion go, and then I'll put a motion on the floor.
Okay,
Ask for one.
Let me ask you a question. I don't want a motion. I don't want to do anything. All I want to know is, are we moving on with this agenda? Because according to Robert's Rules of Order, there should not have been a discussion before friends start talking. So I just want to know where we are.
So there shouldn't be a discussion about a resolution that was put forward.
So no, I want to clarify what Councilwoman Burrow is saying, and I want Councilwoman Griffin to understand too. If we go by just what Alan Mueller gave us today, I'm quoting him, he says the process for considering motions has been incorrect. Once a motion is made, no other discussion is permitted while the chair, Mayor Jones, awaits a second. Once a motion is made and seconded, the chair restates the motion. Only then may debate start on the issue at hand, as stated on page 31. When the chair has stated the question, the motion is pending. It is then open to debate. All discussions, unless specifically introduced as a point of order, wait until the chair formally places the question in front of the council. So there is a room for discussion, Fran. Unfortunately, we didn't do it in the right process. So currently, if we follow these rules, then all of this discussion is null and void until the chair, Mayor Jones, takes a first and a second.
Okay, well, I am interested in not being null and void.
And that's not to tell, Mayor Jones, I didn't know this until Alan Mueller sent it to me too. So I'm just sharing the information I learned with you guys.
Okay. Okay, I call for a motion in a second. Is there a motion?
There is a motion.
Fran, you can't repeat the motion. Okay, is there a motion?
Yes, there is.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Is there a second? The motion, the resolution dies on the floor. It failed without a second.
That is so telling. Like, we were able to engage until there was a technicality saying that we needed to put the motion forward first. And then because we realized that, we just said, no, there's definitely a willingness not to want to work together. There's not a willingness at all.
No, Fran, I would stop you there, Fran.
Let's get some order first. Byron, you can speak. Linda, you can speak. But the resolution is dead. It died on the floor. There was no second, so it died. So let's move on.
Mayor Jones.
Yes, that's Councilwoman Lipka.
The only thing I would like to add, and then I totally agree to move on, is the motion died, but the discussion has not. So Fran, I would say that there's still room for discussion, and let's, maybe not at this point, but I would say, let's have those discussions, let's talk about this, and let's recraft if there is recrafting to be done. But do not assume anything. Assume that there's still possibility.
I don't know who's next. Can I get in the lineup with a comment? Is there anybody after Linda?
Byron,
I just want to have, I had a comment about the resolution, but it's not okay, I'll just keep it to myself.
Okay. Councilwoman Borough.
Could you repeat for me what Mr. Fry said, because I couldn't hear him? But I can hear you well.
No, I wanted to talk about the resolution, my opinion on it, but if it's still the timing restraints, I'll just move on and keep it going.
It's time for restraints. What do you?
It's 9:45 and.
Yes, it's time to move on.
So am I still in the lineup?
No, we're moving on. We're moving on. It died on the floor. We're gonna move on. Without objection, we're introduced by council member present. No objections. Attorney Carey, would you please read resolution number 2020-33?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2020-33, a resolution to transfer special use permit number 96-147 to Krispy Kreme Donut Corporation with no changes in the stipulations and conditions of operation on the site.
Okay, is there a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Byron, second by Councilwoman Lipka. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilman Fry.
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Lipka.
Aye.
Councilman Garrett.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Bills requiring first reading, no action to be taken. Without objection, we will introduce by council member present. Attorney Carey, would you please read the bill by title only?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7194, an ordinance amending chapters 25 and 42 of the municipal code of the city of Ferguson relating to issuance of a business license to rent residential real estate.
Bills requiring second reading. Motion is a second to read the bill a second time and place upon the passage. Is there a motion to, and a second?
Is this on Bill 7194, Mayor
Bill
Jones?
71, bill number 7190.
7190. I make a motion.
Councilwoman Lipka made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Heather Robinette. Attorney Carey, please read the bill.
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7190, an ordinance of the city of Ferguson, Missouri, affirming its method of disclosing potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest.
Interim City Manager Bloom, do you have anything to add at this time?
Yes, ma'am, I do, but only one little thing, and that is that today we actually did receive quote unquote final notice conflict of interest ordinance resolution policy from the Missouri Ethics Commission, reminding us that we are responsible to pass this immediately.
Glad we
Thank
made a
you.
move.
Council, do you have any additional questions?
I'd like to know if there's anyone on the council that want to declare right now. Is that possible?
Declare what?
Declare that they have a conflict of interest.
Oh. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I don't. Clerk Pittman, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilman Garrett,
Aye.
Councilman Fry,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Is her audio up? Is she still on?
I'm showing her name. I do show she's on mute.
Could you ask her to unmute, please? If not, we'll move on. We need a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon this passage Bill number 7191. Yeah.
I'm motioning.
Councilman Fry made the motion. Is there a second?
Hello. Second.
Was that Councilwoman Griffith seconded?
Griffin. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble
Okay.
over here.
Okay. Attorney Carey, could you please read the bill?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7191, an ordinance of the city of Ferguson, Missouri, granting a special use permit for the property located at 800 Chambers Road, subject to the conditions, restrictions, and requirements set forth herein.
Interim City Manager, do you have anything to add at this time?
Yes, ma'am. Very briefly, and I'd ask Director Leeson to assist as well. I will remind you that there was some discussion at the last meeting regarding this bill, and there was a subsequent meeting actually two subsequent meetings to discuss neighbors' issues with this. My sense, I attended one, I did not attend the second. My sense is that that those issues have been to a degree resolved, and I know that there will be continuing discussion around this subject, but there is a willingness on the part of the licensee to address these as well. That's all I have, ma'am.
Okay. The council, do you have any additional questions? I hear none. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Abstain.
Councilman Garrett,
Aye.
Councilman Fry,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Bill number 7191 passes. We need a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon the passage.
So moved.
It's been properly moved by Councilman Fry. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Councilwoman Griffin. Attorney Carey, would you please read Bill number 7192?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7192, an ordinance amending Article 2 of Chapter 28 of the Code of Ordinances for the city of Ferguson, Missouri, adding language defining graffiti.
Interim City Manager Bloom, do you have anything to add?
No, ma'am, I do not. We entertained that discussion at the last meeting.
Council members, do you have any questions you would like to address at this time? Hearing none. Clerk Pittman, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka,
Aye.
Councilman Garrett,
Aye.
Councilman Fry,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin,
No.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Bill number 71-2 passes. I would like to entertain a motion and a second to read the bill a second time and place upon its passage. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Councilwoman Lipka, motion.
Second.
Councilman Byron, second. Attorney Carey, would you please read the bill number 7193?
Yes, ma'am. An ordinance Bill number 7193, an ordinance establishing the 10895 West Florissant Community Improvement District, approving the appointment of the initial board of directors to the district, designating the district as a blighted area, approving a development agreement by and among the city, the district, and Avenue Ferguson LLC, and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith.
Interim City Manager Bloom, do you have anything to add at this time, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mayor. Just to remind everyone that during the hearing last week, we had a very robust discussion around secondary retailers in this location. As a result of that, we've had a very robust discussion with the developer, Mr. Hagel, who is on the attending tonight. We have added section 2.06 to the CID agreement, to the development agreement, and I think that adequately addresses the issues that were brought forward. In addition to which, as part of that, we've actually already provided to the developer a list of approximately 380 suggestions for retailers who could occupy that second space. So I think we've arrived at a suitable compromise for this. And that's all I have. Oh, pardon me. I beg your pardon. And there was one other thing. We did make a small change in section 405, adding the words or clause at the beginning, unless another project is approved by the city, just as a matter of documentation. That was added because there is the possibility that there could be additional goals or additional work that at some point in time towards the end of its lifetime, the council might want the CID to undertake. If there are, that action would require a hearing in order to authorize that, to present it to the public and then authorize it. So this is not in any way thwarting the will of the people. In fact, what it is really doing is trying to be fiscally conservative, because it's quite expensive to create a CID. So if there is, in fact, towards the end of the life of this CID and after it has performed its initial function, if there is a willingness on the part of the council at that point in time to undertake a different project, then there is a mechanism for doing that. If, on the other hand, there is no will to do that, it will simply be dissolved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you. Council, do you have any additional questions? Hearing none. Clerk Pittman, please call the roll.
Mayor Jones, before we do so, I think we should entertain a motion to accept the amendments.
Okay, thank you, Octavia. Is there a motion and a second to accept the amendments?
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Lipka and second by Councilman Fry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it to accept the amendment. Now we can call the roll.
Yes, and this is on the bill as amendment. So it's going to be
right.
Councilman Garrett.
Aye.
Councilman Fry.
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipton.
Aye.
Bill number 7193 passes with the amendments. Unfinished business, we have Halpin Park update. Is Phaedra Nelson available?
I'm here, Mayor Jones.
Okay.
Ms. Octavia, are you able to put up the presentation?
Okay, yeah, let me, really quick, let me search for it really quick. If you want to go ahead and get started while I try to pull it up.
Okay, and could you unmute Mr. Rodney Robinson, the civil engineer, as well, please?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Council, for letting me come back this evening regarding the Halpin Park project. So everyone should have received the more updated and more detailed presentation of the Halpin Park project. The master planning process is still pretty much the same regarding the site inventory and analysis, the alternative concept and vision, the refined concept plan, and the final master plan. So the site plan, none of that has changed from our last discussion. I know that a lot of the council members had questions regarding some of the budgeting, land survey, and from the Emerson Corporation. So some of those questions have been answered through documentation that's also presented in this presentation. The site plan is still the same, as said, with the play structure, the walk path, water fountain, the learning center, the benches, landscape lighting, the fencing on the east and west, and the ADA compliance has all been the same, has not changed. I have added the boundary and land survey to the presentation, so you would have that. The real estate information regarding St. Louis County's revenue and that the city does own this property is also added to the presentation. There is a letter from the city of Ferguson to the Missouri Foundation for Health that's been added to this regarding the mayor and council have agreed to let the development and the funding of the Halpin Park project happen through grassroots process.
Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes.
Is it, are you caught up now at this point, or what page did you need?
Next page. That's the land survey. Okay, the next page that shows the St. Louis County, the actual, there you go. So the city of Ferguson, that's the letter that the city manager at the time did, Missouri Foundation for Health, regarding receiving the Halpin Park project through for the grassroots process, and the donation from Missouri Foundation for Health, Healthy Schools, Healthy Communities. We've also added the MOU agreement, Memorandum of Understanding. That was also added to the presentation. With signatures. We also have the resolution. And the Emerson collaboration letter that I was, that the council had concerns with regarding the property end of Emerson's Park, and what they would continue to provide long-term maintenance to the lot that currently owns and adjacent to the Halpin Park project, which sits on Emerson's property. And they're willing to grant written estimates to access to Woodstock Road for Halpin Park, via the walkway, the path. And they have no objections to the removal of the fence separating the Emerson lot from the city of Ferguson's property. And then there's the funding resources that Councilwoman Burrows wanted information regarding the funding and who that funding was coming from. Healthy Schools, Healthy Communities amount, the We Do amount, and the We Do is for women empowered to end disparities in obesity. Barbarino Auto Group donation, the St. Louis County CDBG's donation, and Emerson's donation. So as the summary says, it's the city owns the site, funding for improvements are in place. The playground equipment again is in local storage with the city. And we're just pending a permit application submission.
Thank you, Phaedra.
And Mr. Rodney on this call, the civil engineer that's working on this project, if we have any technical questions regarding the Health and Park project.
I do have one question in light of kind of circumstances we're under right now. You know, seeing the water fountain on there, that might not be a great use of funds to install a water fountain that's not able to be used and run a water line. So I would ask that may be looked at. Just I'd hate to waste money for something to not be used over the next year or two, depending on how this all works out. So that would be my only concern there.
This is Tony. I have a question.
Okay, Tony, who's your question?
My question is for the sustainability. What would that cover? Is that what is the time frame? I saw the amounts of money, but I couldn't understand what was being said. So I took it to mean that was the feasibility money for the sustainability. How much is that? How much does that money cover for how many years?
How much is it that the money covers the project itself, Councilwoman Burrows?
My question was at the last meeting was, where was the sustainability money coming from? Remember, I mentioned that suppose there was some groundwork that needed to be done. Let's talk about the water fountain. Suppose the water fountain needed to be fixed or something of that nature. Anything, mulch, whatever. That's the sustainability money that I'm talking about. So that's my question. How much sustainability money and how long would that sustainability last for?
Well, I did receive from Matt Unrein what the cost analysis would be for the park, and what he stated in the email to me was that it would be the same cost that it is for the rest of the parks of Ferguson, which was around $100, and that included sewage, water, and lighting. And
are you telling me about utilities, sewage? I didn't hear what else you said.
I'm talking about the sustainability of the park.
Okay.
Regarding I asked for a cost analysis, which I received, which I was informed that would be around the same as the other parks for Ferguson, which was around $100, and that was included lighting, sewage, mowing, and water.
Okay, so what I hear you singing is, and maybe I don't know if Matt was thinking about what I was talking about, okay. And maybe that is the case. Maybe I need to look at what he sent you, because what that sounds like to me is that is the coverage for utilities. If you're talking about water, sewage, and I didn't hear the rest, but that's okay. I'm talking about if you have to have, with all the things that you have that I saw in the drawings, some of those things will have to be replaced. And so as not to have it to turn out like those other 4 parks that I mentioned before that are in disarray, that is really going down. And so if that happens, if we have a new park, we don't want to see this new park turn out like those other 4 parks that are already here that cannot be used. And I'm talking about bushes. The sun gets too hot, a bush die. You have to pay for that. Is that all going to be in the $100 with the sewer bill and the lights? I don't think so. So that's what I was talking about when I talk about sustainability, in order that we don't have a park to get put up one year and the next year it goes down.
Well, Councilman Burrows, I keep hearing you guys refer to this as a new park, and it's not a new park. It's not a new park. Spring Valley Park sits on Halpin as well, and it's the same park. It's just literally 3 steps up the street. So it's not a new park. So it would still be the same maintenance and care that you would have been doing if it was still at.
When you say it's not a new park, is this park already in existence? I just want to be clear. Is the park in existence, or is it going to have to be built? Because if you're going to put up fence, it makes me think that the park wasn't there. If you're going to put up all these thoroughfares and take it back to a wall, excuse me, if you're going to do that, then I'm thinking that that is a new park if it's not already there. If it's already there, please tell me if it is.
I'm just a little bit confused as to why we keep saying it's, I mean, it'll be a new park, but it's not a new park that's sitting on Halpin.
I think we're going tomato.
Okay.
The word new should not matter. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Okay.
What we're talking about. So the word new should be stricken. Should be stricken. This is not about new, old, or whatever. But since you brought it up, I was going to go with it. But I don't see what the word new has to do with anything.
So Councilwoman Burrow, I think what Ms. Nelson is referring to is the initial conversations that were had is, I think it was called Spring Park, that was the visibility into it. It's a current park, but it just is not very conducive for kids to play there. And that's where this moving the site of that current park came into play. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I remember it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
That's how it is. Correct. Okay.
So Spring Park would not exist going forward. It wouldn't be maintained.
No, it will not be maintained. And I believe the residents of Ward 3 is going to turn it into a garden. Is that not correct, Councilwoman Griffith?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. So we have people in the community who have offered to maintain, they're actually going to repurpose the equipment. So there's no need for the city to take the equipment down. We would use it as a really to repurpose it and turn it into a garden and build some flower beds and things of that nature around there. And we do have some elders in the community who have been anticipating that happening so we can actually get it started. So yes, we have people who are willing to help with the build up as far as the wood and all of that goes. So yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything else? If not, there's no need to vote on this because you have the resolution that was voted on, and the previous city manager and Phaedra have the MOU, so everything is in place. So the only thing we need to do at this time is refer her over to Matt and Elliot to get the permits so they could get started. Thank you, Phaedra.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman.
We have miscellaneous. Since we're on a Zoom call, I'm not going to call everyone's name because we do have a closed session, And Councilman Fry keep pointing to his watch. So anyone has something to say for the good of the city?
This is Tony. I'll take an opportunity. I just wanted to let everybody know that the curbside service for the library is back in session. If you have a copying that needs done, you can still come to the library. Someone will come out and service you. They're still doing faxing and anything that you were doing on the inside, except, and we have also set up, if somebody need to use the computer, we can bring a computer out for you if you would give us a call ahead of time. I will be sending, we do need a seat. We have a seat open in the library on the boards. We have a seat open in CRB. I am going to be introducing a senior citizen program. Expect to start them up and have at least 3 before we end the year. So all of that is coming, and it's coming real soon.
Mayor Jones.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back up. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Councilwoman Linda Lipka.
Mayor Jones, I just wanted to let everybody know who's on the call that FNIP is kicking off their Good Neighbor Gift Program. Just a quick program overview. It's Ferguson Neighborhood Improvement Programs. Good Neighborhood Gift allows eligible candidates to apply for $2,500 forgivable loan that can be used toward the purchase of a home within the city limits of the city of Ferguson, Missouri. Eligible candidates will be recent college graduates, law enforcement officers, pre-kindergarten through 12th grade teachers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, and all city of Ferguson employees. You must be pre-qualified for your home purchase, and you must be already working with a realtor or under a home contract. So the way it's structured, the $2,500 gift is a forgivable loan with a term of 3 years. The recipient will not have to pay back the money as long as he or she remains in the home as his or her principal residence for 3 years from the date of closing. The grant will be prorated over the 3-year term. Applications can be obtained by visiting City Hall. So just wanted to let everyone know that that's out there, and to pay attention to social media and the Ferguson Times for all the information about Taste in Ferguson this year. We will be doing it, but it will be a drive-through wonderful event to keep everybody safe on September 13th. So details are at thetasteinferguson.com.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lipka. I only have one. Ferguson Unity and 2020 Census Day is Saturday, August the 29th from 10 to 12 p.m. We have 4 locations this year due to the COVID virus that we are trying to work with all the children in the Ferguson neighborhood without touching. They don't have to fill out any application. They only need their parents with them. The locations are the Emerson Family YMCA. Phaedra Nelson will be the leader. The January Wabash Park, Mary Simmons was going to be the leader, but she had death in the family, so someone else will be taking her place. The Halpin Park, Dr. Jackie Lewis Harris, and the Forestwood Park will be Pat Coleman. And we asking all volunteers to show up at the event center on Friday. You must wear a mask, you must wear gloves, you must have your temperature taken, and you must sign a release form before you can enter the event center. If you have a temperature, you will be turned away. Also, we need volunteers for on Saturdays so you can see the respective people. And that's all I have. Anyone else?
Oh, one more thing. Just want to say thank you to Norma Snowden, Miss Tiffany, and Miss Latanya for allowing me to be the council member that got to help them put together the appreciation for Ferguson's fire department, police department, EMTs, and dispatch. So I know Chief Hampton referred to it, but we were able to just inundate them with all kinds of good food and certificates of appreciation. And I was pleased to be the council member that got to work with him on that. So thank you for those great hearts that did that great work.
It was a great event. Thank you. The next item is closed session. I would like a motion and a second to enter into closed session pursuant to 610.021 subsection 1 to discuss legal matters.
So
Clerk
moved.
Pittman, would you call? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Seconded.
Councilwoman Burrow did a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
No, we're not supposed to join. Okay, second. Councilwoman Pittman, would you please call the roll, please? I mean, Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll? I call her a council person.
I
Okay.
got a motion right quick. Okay. Councilman Fry,
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Jessica,
Aye.
Councilman Garrett.
Aye.
Okay, we're now in closed session. Everyone have a good night.